Hi, this is my exploration of how language, ideology, and power interplay in Thailand's education system. First, for some context, in Thai public schools, it is mandated that they have to learn English as a second language from grade 1. And a lot of Thai public schools and bilingual schools have English program models like EP, which is the English program, and Mini EP, MEP, and English for Integrated Studies. It has also been a recent development that in order to get your bachelor's degree from any Thai universities, you have to have English as a second language. At the same time, the Thai Ministry of Education has adopted the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages as a benchmark, so CEFR. And this reflects the global competitiveness and English proficiency. Another little snippet is of all the ASEAN countries, Thailand still ranks one of the lowest in English proficiency. And that is due to because they have never been colonized, and so the nationalism and Thai language is still a very big priority. Whereas a lot of the other Asian countries have been colonized and do have other languages integrated into their culture. In the journal article Challenges in Implementing Bilingual Education in Thai Public Schools by Watana Mongkol and a few other scholars, it highlights five big obstacles. Policy fragmentation being one of them, which means there's inconsistency in policy, limited teacher training, regional inequality, infrastructure gaps, and cultural tensions. For example, rural schools often lack qualified bilingual teachers and resources, and this creates an uneven access to English and an educational disadvantage for these rural schools. Now, a current policy published in the Bangkok Post in 2024, the article Mandatory English Tests for Uni Students indicates that students are now required to pass an English proficiency test aligned to the CEFR standards before graduating. This turns English into a credentialing gate, not just a subject, but a filter for higher education and future employment. So, what does this reveal about the power dynamics currently at play in Thailand's educational system? Firstly, there is access inequality. English rich schools versus resource poor schools. Think international schools versus public schools. Wealth and region determines language access. Think public schools in rural areas versus international schools in urbanized areas. Next, credentialing via English. So, when the ability to speak English becomes a requirement, it already privileges those in an advantage that have had the opportunity to advance themselves. Next is the ideology of English is associated with modernization and progressiveness. English is positioned as the desirable dominant language, and local minority languages are seen as less useful. And this leads to the marginalization of minority languages. Despite bilingual models, the focus remains on English. Languages of minorities or heritage minority heritages may be sidelined. These dynamics align perfectly with Dada's claim language, ideology, and power form a web of struggle. What does this mean for us as educators? Educators in upper or tertiary institutions need to be aware of credential barriers. They need to understand how language proficiency requirements can actually exclude learners, and that's not based on their academic capabilities. Educators, we need to build inclusive language practices into our classrooms. We need to validate students' home languages and integrate them into learning. We need to advocate for linguistic equity, not just pushing for English, but supporting multilingualism and heritage languages. Monitor and question policy. Ask who wins, who loses when English is prioritized. In researching and exploring this topic, I realized that the politics of language is not some remote theory, but it really actually shapes people's lives. And in Thailand, the policy is supporting some languages and blocking others. And what happens is that it creates winners and losers. And by recognizing these dynamics, we as educators can work in our classrooms to include all languages and to show that all languages matter. And my call to action for myself is to perhaps make one small adjustment to be more inclusive, and that could be greeting students in their home languages, um, or encouraging students to share a phrase or a word in their native language and what it means to them. Thank you so much for listening.